and welcome back to the Busy Corner. Today I'm going to show you how to make this herringbone rug, and I thought you might like to see it in place. So I made my rug 17 inches wide, and including the border, the black border is 38 inches long, and I made it that shape so that it could sit in front of the vanity in our bathroom, our master bathroom. So I guess I would more appropriately call it a bath mat, but I want you to notice the high profile of the rug itself. And if Joe moves up so that you can see it more from above, and in fact I can turn it a bit, this is just a shadow line from the vanity, you can see that it is not a perfect rectangle, that there is a shape to this that is a natural curve on both sides that I think is a combination of the herringbone itself and of the knit fabric that it's made with. And so now I'm going to show you how to make it. To make the herringbone rug, as I did, you will need 3 skeins of Bernat Maker Big, and this is in the color, what is this? Smoke. Now, these are 66-yard skeins, and I used 3. This is strange yarn. I didn't realize really what it is, and it is almost like a jersey knit yarn that is a tube. And inside that tube is I guess I would call it fiberfill. You can see that I can pull it apart, but it has almost a springy texture to it. So it's like fiberfill. And it fills this whole tube, as you're knitting with it. On the edge, I used Bernat Blanket yarn. And that was simply because I had to figure out a way to transition from the rug to the floor. This had such a high profile because of the yarn. You can see how thick it is. And on top of that, you have the ridges underneath that raise it up. And if you cast on and cast off in this yarn, in the Bernat yarn, and don't put any kind of edge on there, you will have a raised area, just like on this. These are just some samples I did. This is made just with, old sheets that I tore up to see how that would look. You can see the herringbone isn't as obvious. So you're going to have a ridge. Now, if you're going to do this as like a bench seat cover, something narrow and long, or make a trivet out of it, this is so thick and nice. You could make something that goes under a cookie sheet or whatnot. You won't need the border. But, like I say, the border I felt was a necessary addition simply to keep you from tripping over the rug. Now, the original pattern came out of a book where the woman did a whole bunch of really cute things with herringbone. And this sample kind of reflects what happens when you do garter stitch on the edge and a standard cast off, and you use the same side rod throughout, and you can see that there's a kind of a splaying out, if you will, of the knitting. And you notice that it doesn't happen so much with the woven fabric. Now, like I say, I was just messing around. So this is where I started, this is where I ended. And the splaying is not as obvious, but the bigger the rug is, the more obvious that is. And she had garter stitch all the way around, and it was distorted unevenly, just like you see this sample. And also, if Joe can zoom in, you see that this very last row of the herringbone gets twisted and obliterated by the next row where the garter stitch begins again. And I didn't like that, so I messed around and messed around and messed around with the pattern till I was happy with what I did. If you're not going to use this yarn, this Bernat Maker, something so thick and spongy, you probably won't need to put on the border. And I will also say that my border is different on one end than it is the other. And that is because I didn't want to see the loss of the herringbone. I wanted to keep the herringbone going. So I did my border in fuzzy black yarn, because I figured if I did that, then the fact that it splayed out a little bit, which is inevitable, and the fact that it was black would disguise the fact that there's just kind of this weird thing that happens with the herringbone one, and two, I do a different thing. So I'm going to lead you through all the steps of the beginning and the end, because I just think it looks better this way. And I've reknit this rug. It's a testament to the durability of this yarn, because I did it about 5 times before I was satisfied with how it looked. Now I love it, and I'm really happy with it. So I'm going to show you, oh, before we change the camera position, I want to just point out, because I had a couple questions about rod length and so on this week. When you go to knit something this long and heavy, you have a couple choices. I showed you in the previous video how to make your pieces, your knitting sticks. Now, you have a couple options. You could use this on a long table, like so, with your long rods. And again, you're going to need something at least 2 feet long to make the rug. I would put on your shorter uprights, and even so, you'll see in another way, you could even cut yourself some 2-inch uprights. And I think for those of you who are getting the longer sticks in your kits, I'm going to include just an upright that's just a couple inches tall. Because you need to support the weight of that rug. Remember, it's going to be hanging off of there. And it's surprisingly heavy. Of course, it has 3, strands of yarn. And as you knit it, you're basically going to be, you're going to be switching from the small one to the big one, and then back to the small one. And I'm going to show you how that works out. The rug will be, on your rods. And as you knit it from rod to rod, you're basically going to spin the rug. You can even kind of fold it up under it so that there's some support under there, if you get my drift. So it can't hang free is what I'm saying. It'll pull the stitches right out of your fingers, so it's too much weight on it. So you can either put it at the end of a long table, you could even put on longer legs, and then you wouldn't even have to weight the rod stand down. If you just threw on, went to the store and bought some other 1/2-inch pipe, it can't come forward once you've done that. So, that's an easy way of doing it. If you want to, how I did it with my little table, again, you should think about where you're going to use your rod stand for something like this. I just had my little stand underneath the strip of fabric, and again, instead of using a very long table, I just had my little crafty table pulled up right here in front of it. And so those uprights of about 4 inches worked out very nicely. So that's just some ideas on how you can support the weight of this while you're working. You could try using your rod knitter or your hoop knitter also, but I thought that might be a little too awkward, so that's why I did it on the sticks. So we'll move the camera and get started.